So in this video, we're going to talk a little bit about masks. So to make a mask, the first thing you want to do is select a shape, and you can select mask over here. And what you'll notice is that everything disappears. They're still there. However, you're not seeing anything. The first thing you want to do when that happens is, if you notice these little arrows here, what this means is that it's being affected by the mask, right? So if I were to grab this little polygon and move it to the right, it's there, right? However, this triangle is still there. So the way that this works, the way that masks work, is that masks work within a selected group. So if I wanted to have a mask of just this polygon but not this triangle, the one thing you can do is you can select this, and you can select ignore underlying mask, and then it'll show up, right? So it'll show up there. However, the other thing you can do is you want to select these two, or whichever ones you want to mask, and then group it. And you'll notice that now the triangle shows up, and the mask is only in here. So now you have, like, let's call this star mask, right? So that's how you do masks. All right, so now that we know how to do masks, I wanted to go back to some of the work we were doing before. So if you remember, in the last video, we created some buttons, right? And we were looking at the buttons from um, Material Design, from Google Material Design. And we had everything, 36 pixels, there's 16 padding and all that sort of stuff. However, the one thing we ignored, there's actually a slight radius on here, on these buttons. And if you recall, if we were to go into this button, double click it, it takes you into the symbols, right? This thing that we created, if you notice, it's the swatch. This is our swatch, right? And our swatches, look at our swatches up here. Also, I reorganized these just so within my symbols, everything looks nice and organized. And as it gets more loaded up, it'll continue to be organized. Anyhow, in the swatches, we created these squares, right? So the one thing we can do if we wanted to get that radius is, we can simply just go into these squares and add a radius to every single one of these, right? It's not necessarily what we want to do, because we want to use these swatches for a variety of things, and we might also want to have this button, but we may also want to have like a floating action button, which is a circle. So how are we going to do that? So now that we know how to use masks, what we're going to do is we're going to go into our button, right? Go into our button, and we're going to create another square, right? We can create a rounded corner square or rectangle square. I'm going to create a rectangle square for now, and we're going to just make the rectangle, and we're going to make the rounded corner instead of selecting the rounded corner. So to make the rounded corner, you select this, and over here you see radius, and we're just going to make a slight rounded corner, right? Actually, you know what? We're going to make it a little more pronounced, just so we make sure we see the effect, right? So here we go. We created a rounded corner, right? So we did radius of 6, and then all we're going to do, bring the rectangle down, right? And now we learned that this is going to affect everything that is above it. So what we could do is we can select both of these and group it, right? And then you can select the rectangle, and then you could mask. And now we have a button with a rounded corner. So there you go. So this is a really nice way to create your buttons, because now we have the rounded corner. We still maintain our swatches, where we can change our different swatch colors, right? And we can use the same exact technique. So if I go in here and, if I go in here, create a new swatch, right? I'm going to do that. And we're going to come in here. We're going to grab, an icon. Just say star, like that, right? And what we could do here, make this a little bit smaller, right? And we'll align it to the center. We can look over here, and the way that this works, these floating action buttons, which are little circles that show up in a lot of the Google apps, it's 50, 56. So we're going to make a circle. Grab that circle. And that circle right now is 30 by 30. We're going to make it 56 by 56 because that's pretty large. Okay, there we go. Do that. We're going to make this larger, right? Because what we're going to do is we're going to actually mask that. And we're just going to select this. And we're going to create a symbol. I'm going to call this UI button. I'm going to call it action. We'll just call UI button action. Right. Now we will click in here. We have this button. We can move this at the bottom because we're going to make this the mask, right? And then we want this swatch to be grouped within it, right? And then we're going to click on this oval and mask. And there you go. So now, if we go back here, we've now created another button, which is an action button, similar to what you'd see at Google, and it still has the same icon. I can make it a heart, and I could change the colors. All right, so that's how you use these sorts of masks to make all these various interfaces. And as you can see, all the different things that we want to do, labels, buttons, use the same exact technique, and you'll be able to do a load of different sorts of interface elements. All right, so that's it for masks. Have a good night.